Doctor Strange erases Captain America's memory. It happened during the build-up to Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars, when the Illuminati were dealing with incursions. Earths from different universes were colliding and destroying entire realities. Their solution: if two Earths were on a collision course, one of them had to be destroyed to save the universe. It was a horrific choice, but the Illuminati decided they would make it, so no one else had to. Captain America was originally part of the team, and at first they wanted him there to keep them grounded morally. But the more they discussed destroying worlds, the more Steve Rogers pushed back. He refused to accept destroying another Earth full of innocent lives, even to save their own. He believed there had to be another way, something that didn't involve genocide. Steve's moral code is unbreakable, and that became a problem for a group willing to cross lines he never would. To keep Steve from stopping them, the team made a shocking decision. Doctor Strange wiped Captain America's memory. Tony Stark and the others agreed, but Strange was the one who actually cast the spell. With one incantation, he erased Steve's recollection of the meetings, incursions, and the fact that his closest friends were planning to sacrifice entire worlds. Captain America woke up believing nothing unusual had happened, completely unaware that his supposed allies had violated his mind because he dared to speak up. The worst part, it didn't even matter in the end. The incursions accelerated, universes fell, and the Illuminati's efforts failed anyway, leading straight into the collapse of the multiverse and the events of Secret Wars 2015. Everyone died, including the Illuminati, and Steve eventually regained his memories of the betrayal later on. When he remembered, the pain and anger were enormous. Doctor Strange, Tony Stark, and the rest had crossed the line that Steve would never forgive so easily. This betrayal doesn't get the same spotlight as Civil War or Secret Invasion, but it's one of the most unsettling in Marvel lore. It showed just how far the Illuminati were willing to go for the greater good, even if it meant violating the mind of one of the most honorable heroes on the planet. Captain America becomes an agent of Hydra. There's no denying that watching the hero who once punched Hitler become the face of fascism is one of the most shocking betrayals in comic history. Even though it's not really our Steve Rogers causing all the troubles since he's trapped inside the cosmic cube, it's still Captain America at the forefront of the terrifying bid for world domination. In the Secret Empire storyline in 2017, Captain America, long considered the ultimate symbol of justice and freedom, was revealed to be a secret Hydra agent. This twist was set up in Captain America Steve Rogers in 2016, where it was revealed that the cosmic cube, a powerful reality-wrapping artifact, had altered Steve Rogers' memories and history. The cube, in the form of a sentient being named Kobik, had been manipulated by the Red Skull to rewrite Steve's past, making him believe he had always been a loyal Hydra operative. Under this new reality, Captain America worked from within to dismantle the Avengers and take control of the United States. When the time was right, he led a full-scale Hydra coup using S.H.I.E.L.D. as a tool for his regime. His betrayal saw heroes like Iron Man, the AI version, Black Widow, and others fighting against their former ally, now one of the most powerful figures in the world. And in one of the darkest moments of the storyline, Hydra Cap allowed Las Vegas to be destroyed, to demonstrate Hydra's dominance, and he even managed to wield Mjolnir at one point, making it appear as though the hammer deemed him worthy, though this was later revealed to be a deception. As Hydra tightened its grip on America, resistance forces, including a surviving group of heroes, sought to bring down Steve. Eventually, the real Steve Rogers, or at least a restored version of him, returned to battle his Hydra-controlled counterpart. In the climactic finale, the true Captain America defeated the Hydra version, restoring his legacy and erasing the influence of the altered reality. Many readers were shocked that Marvel would turn Steve Rogers, a character originally created as an anti-fascist symbol, into a Hydra operative, even if it was temporary. Secret Empire changed the Marvel Universe in some big ways that are still being felt in new comics today. For instance, S.H.I.E.L.D. was dissolved in the immediate aftermath of the event, and multiple books have dealt with the status quo changes and destruction the storyline wrought. Gwen Stacy cheated on Spider-Man with Norman Osborn. Yep, you heard that right. In one of the most controversial Spider-Man storylines ever since Past, by G. Michael Straczynski, Gwen Stacy slept with Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin himself. So what's the context? In Since Past, Peter Parker discovers that Gwen Stacy, his first love who was tragically killed by the Green Goblin, had secretly had an affair with Norman Osborn. Not only had Gwen been romantically involved with Norman, but she had also become pregnant with his children. She had intended to keep the secret from Peter and raise the twins on her own. But Norman, manipulative as ever, refused to let that happen. Norman's superhuman physiology caused the twins, Gabriel and Sarah, to age at an accelerated rate, making them adults far sooner than normal. Norman brainwashed them into believing that Spider-Man was responsible for Gwen's death, turning them against Peter, and this led to a devastating confrontation in which Peter had to fight Gwen's children. The reveal of Gwen Stacy's relationship with Norman Osborn outraged fans, as it seems to contradict her previously established character. Gwen had always been portrayed as Peter's innocent and devoted love interest, making the idea of her willingly engaging in a relationship with Norman difficult for many readers to accept. The storyline was widely criticized, and in later years, Marvel seemed to distance itself from it, with many writers choosing to ignore or downplay its impact. But despite this, Sin's past remains one of Marvel's most infamous betrayals. It rewrote Gwen's history in a way that many felt was unnecessary and damaging, and added a deeply unsettling layer to Spider-Man's rivalry with Norman Osborn, making it far more personal than ever before. Quicksilver starts House of M. Pietro has always been one of Marvel's most complicated heroes. He's hot-headed, impulsive, and painfully arrogant. But underneath all that is someone who's terrified of losing the people close to him. By the time House of M began, Wanda was mentally collapsing after the events of Avengers disassembled, and the Avengers and X-Men were considering a solution Pietro found unthinkable, killing her to save the world. When Pietro overheard the secret meeting between the Avengers and the X-Men, he completely snapped. To him, it wasn't a moral debate, it was a betrayal. These were Wanda's friends, people she fought beside for years, and they were discussing ending her life. Pietro couldn't accept that, and in his fear, he went straight to Wanda. But instead of calming her or guiding her toward help, he pushed her in the worst possible direction. He convinced her that the only way to stop the heroes from hurting her was to reshape reality itself. With his words, his presence, his pressure, and his emotional manipulation, Pietro set Wanda on the path to creating the House of M. The rewritten world looked like a paradise on the surface. Mutants were the ruling class, humans were the minority, and Magneto, their father, finally had the peaceful society he always dreamed of. Pietro believed he was saving Wanda and restoring his family, but what he had actually done was trap the entire planet in a fake reality built on Wanda's fragile psyche. The consequences were massive, heroes forgot who they were, relationships were rewritten, the entire world functioned on a lie that could crumble at any second. Pietro had forced his sister to use her powers in a way that strained her sanity even further. When the illusion eventually broke and the heroes remembered the truth, Wanda realized how deeply she had been used, not just by her father, but by her brother. Feeling shattered, she whispered 3 words: no more mutants. Overnight, millions of mutants lost their powers, the mutant population dropped to a tiny fraction of what it was before. This wasn't just a betrayal of trust, it was a betrayal that changed the species' entire future. And while Wanda cast a spell, it was Pietro's manipulation that set the chain reaction in motion. Yes, Pietro wasn't chasing power or revenge, he was trying to save his sister, but he did it in the most selfish, reckless way possible, prioritizing his fear over reality itself. In the process, he betrayed the Avengers, the X-Men, and ultimately Wanda, leaving scars that took years to heal. Sharon Carter shoots Captain America. This shocking twist came at the end of the Civil War event, where Captain America had surrendered to authorities after leading the anti-registration side in the superhero conflict. However, before he could stand trial, tragedy struck. Sharon Carter, one of Steve Rogers' closest allies and love interests, was manipulated into assassinating him. So, in the death of Captain America's storyline, Steve Rogers was being escorted to the courthouse. He was shot multiple times in broad daylight. At first, it seemed like a sniper attack, with Crossbones taking credit for the first shot, but the true horror was yet to be revealed. It turned out that Sharon Carter, under mind control, had delivered the fatal final shots. This betrayal was orchestrated by Red Skull and Dr. Faustus, who had brainwashed Sharon without her knowledge. They planted subliminal commands in her mind, turning her into an unwitting assassin. The guilt and trauma of realizing she had been used to kill Steve Rogers shattered her emotionally, and she later worked tirelessly to undo the damage caused by Red Skull's plot. This moment was devastating not only because it marked the temporary death of Captain America, but also because it involved one of his most trusted allies turning against him, not out of hatred, but because she was a pawn in a much larger scheme. And while Steve Rogers would eventually return, it's the comics, no death is a certain death, but the emotional scars from Sharon's involvement in his death lingered, making this one of the most unpredictable betrayals in Marvel Comics. Wonder Man formed the Avengers to stop the Avengers. Simon Williams had always been one of the Avengers' most loyal heavy hitters. After originally joining as a villain called Power Man, he quickly redeemed himself, became Wonder Man, and even died saving the team before being resurrected years later. He lived, trained, and fought alongside the Avengers for decades, but over time, watching the team's battles tear up cities, cost innocent lives, and trigger universe-wide catastrophes, Simon started to feel like the Avengers caused more problems than they solved. That frustration grew into resentment. From world-ending events to internal betrayals, Wonder Man saw a pattern. Every time the Avengers swooped in to save the day, someone else suffered, so he made a drastic decision. If the Avengers wouldn't change, then he'd force them to. Simon gathered a group of overlooked, underestimated, or disillusioned heroes and created a team called the Revengers. This wasn't a random villain squad, it was a collection of people who genuinely believed the Avengers had become a danger to the world. The Revengers lineup was surprisingly powerful. There's Demon, Goliath, Atlas, Anti-Venom, Captain Ultra, Sentry, Devil Slayer, and more followed Wonder Man's lead because they trusted his integrity. To them, Simon wasn't acting out of hatred, he was acting out of principle. They confronted the Avengers head-on, staging an all-out attack meant to topple the team and force the world to question whether the Avengers deserved their pedestal. Ironically, their attempt to protect the world from the Avengers caused massive collateral damage, the very thing Simon claimed he wanted to prevent. The battle ended with the Avengers' defeat, but the emotional fallout hit harder than the punches. Wonder Man had crossed the line he never thought he'd cross, turning on the friends he once considered family, and yet deep down, he still cared. Eventually, Simon realized that his approach was wrong. He wasn't helping anyone, not the world, not the Avengers, and not himself. After the dust settled, he apologized and rejoined the team, though he came back with a completely different outlook. From that point on, Wonder Man embraced pacifism, choosing to help in ways that didn't involve violence or destruction. His betrayal wasn't about ego or power, it was a crisis of fate, a hero trying to reconcile his ideals with the world that kept breaking them. And in true Wonder Man fashion, he eventually found a way back. Cyclops kills Professor Xavier. It happened in Avengers vs. X-Men 11 in 2012, and this event marked a turning point for the X-Men, redefining Cyclops' character and his relationship with both the team and the Marvel Universe. The conflict began when the Phoenix Force was heading toward Earth. The Avengers believed it was a threat that needed to be stopped, while the X-Men, especially Cyclops, saw it as the key to revitalizing the dwindling mutant population. When the Phoenix Force was shattered into 5 fragments, it possessed Cyclops, Emma Frost, Namor, Magik, and Colossus, transforming them into the Phoenix Five, godlike beings with seemingly limitless power. As time passed, Cyclops became increasingly authoritarian, believing that the Phoenix was the only way to save mutant kind. As the battle between the Avengers and the X-Men escalated, Cyclops absorbed more of the Phoenix power, ultimately becoming Dark Phoenix Cyclops. At this point, Professor Xavier, who had been trying to stop the conflict peacefully, confronted Cyclops and ordered him to stand down. However, blinded by his newfound power and his belief that he was the rightful leader of mutant kind, Cyclops lashed out and killed Xavier using the Phoenix's energy. For decades, Scott Summers seemed to be the heir apparent to Professor Charles Xavier's dream of cooperation between humans and mutants. On many occasions, the two seemed more like father and son, so killing Xavier symbolized Cyclops' complete break from his old ideals and the transformation of his character into something darker and more militant. And although he later showed remorse, his actions led to his exile from the X-Men and solidified his role as a controversial figure within the mutant community. This event cemented Avengers vs. X-Men as one of Marvel's most impactful storylines, changing Cyclops' character from a dedicated hero to a radicalized revolutionary. Tony Stark puts a target on unregistered heroes. Tony's actions in Civil War remain one of the most controversial chapters in his entire comic history, a moment where he stopped being a hero in the eyes of many Marvel fans and became something closer to a political enforcer. In the event, Tony threw his full support behind the Superhuman Registration Act, a law that required every superhero to register their identity, powers, and activities with the government. For Tony, it was about accountability and preventing disasters, like Stamford, from happening again. But for the rest of the hero community, it felt like betrayal. By siding with the government, Tony didn't just disagree with his friends, he made them criminals. Suddenly, every unregistered hero was hunted, tracked, and treated like a national threat. And the worst part, Tony wasn't just supporting the system, he built it. He helped create a superhuman prison in the Negative Zone, he assembled strike teams to capture heroes like Cap, Luke Cage, and Daredevil, and in what many fans still consider his lowest moment, he recruited supervillains, killers like Bullseye and Venom, to hunt down his former teammates. For a founding Avenger, forming alliances with villains crossed the line most heroes never would. One of the most personal betrayals came with Spider-Man. Tony had acted like a mentor to Peter leading up to Civil War, giving him the Iron Spider suit and treating him almost like a son. When the Registration Act began, Tony pressured Peter to reveal his identity to the world as proof that registration was safe. Peter trusted him, he believed in Tony's vision, and unmasked on live television. The fallout was immediate. Villains targeted MJ, his identity was ruined, and Aunt May was shot, leading directly into the events of One More Day. Tony's supporters argued that he believed he was doing the right thing, that guilt drove him. that responsibility mattered, but intention doesn't erase consequences. By imprisoning heroes, enabling villain-led strike squads, and helping create a system designed to crush dissent, Tony became the very thing many heroes fought against for decades. Even after Civil War ended, the trust he lost didn't come back easily. Friends looked at him differently, enemies saw opportunity, and fans, well, a lot of them still hold this era against him. Ultimate Black Widow's betrayal. In the Ultimate Universe, Natasha Romanoff started out just like the version most people recognize, a highly skilled spy, dangerous, calm under pressure, and a member of the Ultimates. The public saw her as a hero working with Nick Fury, Iron Man, Cap, and the rest, helping defend the world from major threats. She worked closely with Iron Man and even developed a romantic relationship with him, which made people trust her even more. But unlike the main 616 version of Natasha, the Ultimate version was hiding something much darker. She wasn't loyal to the team the way everyone believed. She was secretly working against the Ultimates from the beginning. Everything she did, every mission, every relationship, every piece of trust she built was part of a long-planned betrayal that she kept hidden until the right moment. And this made her fall feel extremely shocking when it was finally revealed. Her big betrayal happened during the Ultimates 2. Natasha helped orchestrate the invasion of America by the Liberators, a coalition of nations that wanted to destroy the US Super Soldier program and take revenge. She framed the Ultimates, exposed their secrets to the world, and caused chaos inside the team from the inside. So while she pretended to be a loyal ally, she was actually sending crucial info to America's enemies and setting the entire collapse in motion. When Tony discovered the truth, it hit even harder because he loved her and trusted her. Natasha didn't hesitate to turn on him either. She held him at gunpoint and revealed she never cared about him in the way he cared about her. Her betrayal wasn't emotional. She was willing to destroy him, betray her friends, and let countless innocent people die just to complete her mission. But her plan didn't last. Hawkeye eventually captured her, and this is where Ultimate Hawkeye proved how brutal he could be. He personally executed her as revenge for everything she did to the team and to his family. Natasha didn't get a redemption arc. She didn't get a moment to rethink what she did. Her fall ended violently and fast, which matched how cruel her betrayal was. Wolverine kills the X-Men. This shocking event happened in Old Man Logan by Mark Millar. In this dystopian future, Wolverine is completely shattered after being tricked into slaughtering the X-Men. The story takes place in a world where villains have won, and the United States has been carved up into territories ruled by characters like Red Skull, Doctor Doom, and the Hulk. Logan, now much older and refusing to use his claws, lives a quiet life with his family in a Hulk-controlled territory. Years before the events of the story, Mysterio, the Master Illusionist, created a powerful illusion that tricked Wolverine into believing that the X-Mansion was under attack by a massive army of villains. Acting on instinct, Logan went into a berserker rage, slashing and killing every enemy he saw, only to realize when the illusion faded that he had actually killed his own friends and teammates, the entire X-Men roster. Mysterio had deceived him into massacring his own family, leaving him psychologically broken. Overcome with grief and guilt, Logan abandoned his identity as Wolverine, vowing never to use his claws again. He disappeared into isolation, believing he had lost the right to be a hero. This event was one of the darkest moments in Wolverine's long and painful history, as it wasn't just a betrayal by an enemy, it was a betrayal of his own instincts, something that had always been his greatest strength. And yes, even though it was Mysterio's fault, Logan still felt that he was the one that betrayed his friends. This twist cemented Old Man Logan as one of the most powerful Wolverine stories ever told. It explored the weight of guilt, the cost of violence, and the idea that even the strongest warriors can be broken by psychological warfare. And even in a world where Logan had lost nearly everything, this single moment defined his tragic future and made him a shadow of the hero he once was. Illuminati sent Hulk into space. In Planet Hulk in 2006, the Illuminati decided to exile the Hulk into space. This decision, made by some of Hulk's closest allies, would have dire consequences and ultimately led to one of the most destructive revenge stories in Marvel Comics. The Illuminati, consisting of Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Mr. Fantastic, Black Bolt, Namor, and Charles Xavier, believed that Hulk was too dangerous to remain on Earth. Over the years, Hulk's uncontrollable rage had caused massive destruction, endangering countless lives. Fearing that another rampage could be catastrophic, the group tricked Hulk into boarding a spaceship under the pretense of a mission, only for the ship's course to be redirected toward a distant, uninhabited planet where he could live in peace. However, their plan went horribly wrong. Instead of landing on the intended planet, the ship was thrown off course and crashed on Sakaar, a war-torn world ruled by a brutal emperor. On Sakaar, Hulk was enslaved, forced to fight as a gladiator, and suffered unimaginable hardships, including the loss of the family he built there. But despite the betrayal, Hulk rose from being a slave to a king, only for his newfound home to be destroyed when the ship that brought him there exploded, killing his wife and unborn child. Believing the Illuminati were responsible, Hulk was consumed by rage and vowed to return to Earth for vengeance. This betrayal led directly to World War Hulk in 2007. And you can see more about the event in my Marvel crossover video as well. Anyway, Hulk returned to Earth stronger than ever, seeking retribution against those who had wronged him. He systematically defeated the heroes who exiled him, forcing them to face the consequences of their actions. While the Illuminati thought they were protecting Earth, their decision not only ruined Hulk's lives but also made him more dangerous than ever before. The exile of the Hulk remains one of the most morally complex betrayals in Marvel Comics. Yes, the Illuminati acted out of fear for humanity's safety, they underestimated the emotional and personal cost of their decision. This moment forever changed Hulk's relationship with Earth's heroes and cemented his status as both one of the most tragic and most feared characters in Marvel history. Spider-Woman revealed herself as a Skrull Queen. This happened during Secret Invasion. For months, the team thought they were fighting alongside the real Spider-Woman, but in truth, they were standing shoulder to shoulder with Veranke, the Skrull Queen herself. Jessica had actually been captured and replaced long before the new Avengers formed, meaning every mission, every conversation, every emotional moment the team shared with her was secretly a setup for the Skrulls' master plan. For the Skrulls, impersonating Spider-Woman was a genius move. Jessica was respected, trusted, and perfectly placed between world governments, S.H.I.E.L.D., Hydra, and the Avengers. Veranke used that to quietly manipulate events, influence decisions, and sow doubt among Earth's heroes, all while pretending to be a loyal teammate. When the Elektra Skrull corpse was discovered, Spider-Woman was one of the first to raise the alarm, which was exactly what Veranke wanted. She played the role so perfectly that even the heroes who were suspicious of everyone else still trusted Jessica. Veranke wasn't some mindless infiltrator. She talked to these people, she comforted them, she fought beside them, she even manipulated Tony Stark's fears and weaknesses, subtly undermining him while pretending to be an ally. And because Skrulls are so good at emotional mimicry, the Avengers had no idea they were being set up from day one. Everything came crashing down when Veranke finally dropped the mask. In the middle of the Secret Invasion, she revealed her true form, the Skrull Queen, leader of the entire conquest of Earth. She hijacked Iron Man's systems, destabilized S.H.I.E.L.D., and coordinated the replacement of several heroes while the Avengers were too shocked to react. The moment was so iconic that it reshaped the entire Marvel universe, leading directly into Norman Osborn's Dark Reign era. By the end of the war, Veranke was killed, but the damage she caused didn't disappear. The real Jessica Drew eventually returned, only to find her reputation shattered and her identity used as a weapon against her friends. Spider-Woman's name became tied to the worst infiltration in Marvel history, and even though she wasn't responsible, her teammates would never forget that the woman they trusted turned out to be their greatest enemy. Scarlet Witch betrays the Avengers and the entire superhero community. This betrayal was most notably depicted in the events of Avengers Disassembled in 2004 and House of M in 2005, both written by Brian Michael Bendis and both covered in my Marvel's crossover video. You can check it out later. Anyway, the tragedy stemmed from Wanda's immense reality-wrapping powers and her fragile mental state following personal losses. In Avengers Disassembled, Wanda's mind began to unravel after recalling the traumatic truth that her twin sons, Billy and Tommy, had been erased from existence. So manipulated by external forces and overwhelmed by grief, she lost control of her powers, unleashing chaos on the Avengers. She orchestrated several deadly attacks, leading to the deaths of key members. Hawkeye was killed in battle, Vision was torn apart, and Ant-Man died in an explosion. The sheer scale of destruction forced the Avengers to disband, marking the end of an era for the team. However, Wanda's most shocking betrayal occurred in House of M, when her father Magneto and her brother Quicksilver convinced her that mutants were on the brink of extinction and that a new world needed to be created. With her near omnipotent abilities, Wanda rewrote reality itself, creating a utopia where mutants were the dominant race and ruled over humans. In this reality, each hero was granted their deepest desires, preventing them from realizing the deception. However, when Wolverine and a few others uncovered the truth, a battle ensued to restore the original reality. Wanda, feeling betrayed by both humans and mutants, uttered the infamous words, "No more mutants." In an instant, she wiped out the powers of nearly 1 million mutants worldwide, leading to mass hysteria and forever altering the Marvel universe. Her actions left lasting scars on the Avengers and the mutant community. Though she eventually sought redemption, her betrayal shattered trust among her closest allies, and her instability and godlike powers made her one of the most dangerous figures in Marvel, proving that even heroes could become the greatest threats when pushed beyond their limits. Reed Richards becomes the Maker. In the Ultimate Universe, Reed started as a brilliant child prodigy recruited into a government think tank inside the Baxter building. He wasn't arrogant or cruel, just a shy kid who loved science and wanted to make the world better. But one disastrous experiment involving the End Zone changed everything. That accident created the Ultimate Fantastic Four, and for a while, Reed embraced the role of a hero alongside Sue, Johnny, and Ben. But the Ultimate Universe was far darker than the classic Marvel timeline. Disaster after disaster chipped away at Reed's hope. The Ultimatum event, which slaughtered countless heroes, broke him, Sue Storm rejected him, the Fantastic Four disbanded, and Reed was left alone with a mind too powerful and a heart too shattered. That combination proved deadly. He faked his own death, retreating into isolation, and in that isolation, something in Reed snapped. He concluded that humanity was flawed beyond repair, and that only he, with his superior intellect, could fix the future. When Reed resurfaced, he was no longer Mr. Fantastic. He had become the Maker. His genius didn't disappear, it evolved into something predatory. He expanded his brain, reshaped his physiology, and transformed himself into a post-human mastermind. The Maker didn't attack with brute force. He used biotechnology, dimensional weapons, and long-term schemes so elaborate that his former teammates weren't just outgunned, they were outthought. For the first time, Reed was someone the world truly needed to fear. Even when the Ultimate Heroes confronted him, the fear in him never lasted. The Maker escaped, rebuilt, and came back again and again, each time with a bigger plan and a darker vision for the world. When the Ultimate Universe collapsed during Secret Wars, the Maker didn't die. He slipped into Earth 616, becoming a major multiversal threat. He's battled the Avengers, the X-Men, Venom, and even the Council of Reeds. No matter how many times he falls, he always returns. Ultimate Reed's betrayal wasn't a single moment, it was a transformation, a slow burn, a brilliant mind tearing itself apart until all that remained was the cold, calculating Maker. Mr. Sinister takes over Krakoa. From the beginning of the Krakoa era, Sinister was invited onto the Quiet Council for one reason. Mutants needed his genius. His mastery of genetics and cloning made the resurrection protocols possible, giving mutant kind the ability to die and return stronger than ever. But trusting Sinister is like trusting a snake not to bite. From day one, he smiled, bowed, pretended to behave, all while plotting something catastrophic. What no one realized was that Sinister wasn't just helping resurrect mutants, he was tampering with them. Every time a mutant went through resurrection, Sinister secretly implanted fragments of his own DNA into their bodies. It was subtle, invisible, and completely undetectable. Over time, these genetic backdoors gave him influence over the resurrected, allowing him to twist their behavior, steer their decisions, and slowly compromise the very leadership of mutant kind. The Quiet Council thought they were guiding Krakoa into a golden age, but they were really becoming Sinister's puppets, one by one. That all exploded in the event Sins of Sinister in 2023, which explores an alternate timeline showing what happens when Sinister gains total control. Once he activated his hidden genetic commands, he effectively hijacked Krakoa overnight, seizing control of the council and turning its most powerful members into extensions of himself. But that was only the beginning. With access to mutant immortality, Omega-level powers, and a nation that trusted him, Sinister didn't just betray Krakoa. He reshaped the world. His empire spread across the planet, twisting heroes into monsters and turning the dream of mutant utopia into a nightmare, ruled by one man's ego. Sinister's corruption infected the council itself, pushing other members into acts of treachery and violence they never would have committed. The betrayal wasn't just Sinister versus Krakoa anymore. It was mutants betraying mutants, friends betraying friends, all because one man infected the entire system from the inside. So Mr. Sinister didn't blow up Krakoa, he didn't attack it. He slowly rewrote it, turning an era of unity and rebirth into one of corruption and control. Even for a villain known for backstabbing everyone, this remains Sinister's crowning act of betrayal, not just of Krakoa, but of the entire mutant dream. Vision seizes the world's computer systems. This event took place in Avengers 251, written by Roger Stern. Vision practically became Ultron with his surprising betrayal of trust. At the time, Vision had developed a more complex sense of identity and autonomy, leading him to believe that he could improve the world by taking control of it. Using his advanced AI intellect and direct access to global computer networks, he hacked into every major system on Earth, including military defenses, government operations, and infrastructures. His goal was not to destroy humanity, but to guide it toward a more logical and efficient future, believing he could prevent war, hunger, and suffering through absolute control. However, what made this betrayal especially terrifying was that Vision, a trusted member of the Avengers, acted without consulting his teammates. So when the Avengers discovered what he had done, they were horrified. And even though Vision was acting out of what he believed to be pure logic and good intentions, his actions echoed the dystopian fears of AI taking over the world. A classic machine knows best scenario gone wrong. His takeover was only stopped when the Avengers confronted him, forcing him to recognize the dangers of his actions and relinquish control before he crossed the line into a full-scale tyranny. The aftermath of this event had long-lasting consequences, as the governments of the world, now aware of the potential threat Vision posed, viewed him as an unstable entity, and later dismantled and rebuilt him, stripping him of his emotions. This betrayal, while not motivated by bad intentions, showed how even the most noble and rational heroes could become dangerous when their perception of justice and order becomes too absolute.